Good evening and welcome, everyone. Thanks for taking the time out of your night to join us for tonight's public hearing. This is a public hearing for an application received by EGLE to construct an afforested critical dune area. Location is Lot 16 Wildwood in Bridgman, Michigan. My name is Ryan Blazik. I'm with EGLE's Environmental Support Division. I'm just going to be moderating the public hearing tonight. As moderator, I just have a couple things to go through before we get too far. First thing is the agenda. This is what tonight's agenda is going to look like. Starting off with an introduction that we're doing right now. And then the big thing to keep in mind is that there's two parts to tonight's hearing. We're going to start off with an information session. The applicant will have an opportunity to present information on the project and the application. And then we'll follow that up with a question and answer session. So you'll have an opportunity to ask some questions. We'll explain how we'll do that later. And that's going to go no later than about 6:30, at which time we're going to go on to the second part, which is the official hearing, and that's where everybody will have an opportunity to make a statement for the official record on this application. We're also going to cover the ways to submit an official comment if you don't want to make a comment tonight, and then also who you can contact for additional questions. All right, in case you haven't joined us for one of these hearings before, all lines are going to be muted during the hearing, so you'll be able to hear us, but we can't hear you. Unless we unmute you, you'll have that opportunity to ask a question verbally or make a statement later on, and we'll explain how we'll do that. You can communicate with us using the Q&A box in the Zoom toolbar, and you can also ask your question, but we're only going to answer questions during that Q&A period that we talked about. And also, just so you're aware, we are recording this hearing, and it'll be posted on our YouTube channel in a couple days. All right, at this point, I would like to invite our other EGLE staff on the line to turn their cameras on and introduce themselves.
I guess I'll go first. John Byha, District Engineer here in the Kalamazoo District Office. I'm the one that's assigned to reviewing this file primarily.
And I'm Derek Haroldson, the District Supervisor for the Kalamazoo District Office. So oversee the administration of 6 different statutes or programs in the 8 counties that we cover in Southwest Michigan that make up the Kalamazoo District Office.
All right, thank you both for that introduction. All right, at this point, we are going to find the representative for the applicant, Matt McGregor, in the audience, and unmute Matt to provide some information on this application and project.
Thank you. My name is Matt McGregor. I'm a senior environmental consultant with Barr Engineering. On behalf of the applicants, the Cliffords, I'd like to thank you all for coming. We're looking forward to hearing your comments about the project. As stated in the public notice and the application documents, the Cliffords are proposing to construct a single-family home in the associated utilities with that home.
Sorry to distract you, Matt. I do have some slides of the plans that were submitted with the application if you want or need to reference them.
Yeah, thank you. If you would go to maybe the sheet 1 of 8 and the next one, that would be great. There we go. So the Cliffords are proposing to build a single-family home, ancillary storage area, and a driveway to access both of these structures. In preparation for this application, the Cliffords conducted or had a topographic survey done of the parcel. They had a tree survey done of the parcel, locating all the trees within the parcel boundaries. And then they put together a project team of licensed professional engineers and architects to develop the plan that you're really seeing here now. The house itself is constructed in 3 pods. The purpose of those 3 pods is really to avoid steep slope areas in the proposed area of construction, and to really limit impacts to the critical dune area. The proposed ancillary structure is located in an area with slopes less than 1 on 3. In fact, all of the construction activities that are proposed are within areas less than 1-on-3 slopes, with the exception of the driveway. And the driveway is proposed and is necessary to access the proposed structures. The driveway has been designed to be kind of meet state safety requirements, stormwater management considerations, snow removal considerations as well. The use of retaining walls on the graphic that you're seeing here now are being employed to limit the amount of area that will be disturbed by the construction of the driveway and the proposed structures. The site is approximately 5 acres in size, as was stated before, is predominantly forested, kind of a dune complex. After construction, approximately 11% of the site will be developed. The remainder of the site will be left really in its natural condition as it is today.
Are you all set, Matt?
I just wanted to, again, thank everyone for attending. We're looking forward to your comments, and we believe that the proposed construction design is consistent with the Dune regulatory statute. And really our intent here is to limit the extent possible impacts to the Dune features while also being allowed to construct a home site and ancillary building. With that, I'll conclude my comments and look forward to hearing from everybody's comments. Thank you.
All right, thanks for providing that information, Matt. Yeah, we're going to move right into the question and answer session. So if you have a question that you'd like to ask, you can submit it in the Q&A box. Just type it in there, send it to us. Or if you'd like to ask your question verbally, you can raise your hand in Zoom. So you can select the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen, and that will raise your hand in Zoom. And then we'll call on you to ask your question, and we'll unmute you. You can unmute yourself and ask. And then if you're on the phone, if you have any phone-in callers, you can type #2 on your receiver, and what that will do is raise your hand in Zoom, and we'll call on you using the last 4 digits of your phone number. Only thing I want to emphasize is that this is a question and answer session. If you have a statement to make, hold on to that until the next part of tonight, where we get through the hearing part, where you'll be able to make a statement for the record on this application. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start taking questions. All right. Is the tree survey included in the documents which are on the EGLE site? EGLE website, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I believe it is.
All right. Thank you. If a tree survey has been done, why is there no tree removal plan submitted? I guess related to that same.
So it's all kind of included in their what we call a vegetation assurance, which is like a required document for critical dune permitting. It goes into a fair amount of depth. It's like written, though. It's not really pictographical, I don't think. Let me just double check that. Yep. It's kind of a written description of how many trees they think are going to be removed, what types they are, whether they're alive or dead, that sort of thing. I think on a drawing, because there's so many trees, it would kind of be hard to see what's going on. But we sometimes do ask for like a pictographical or drawing version of the tree removal. Here, we did not think it was necessary. I'm going off of there's like written description of it. So.
All right, thanks. And kind of related to that, I've got a request to talk more about the tree survey, but then also how many trees in total will be removed? There's a couple questions on that.
Yeah, let me pull that up. I don't remember the name off the top of my head, so bear with me. It's over 100, I know that.
All right. Is that something that Matt would know potentially? Are you there, Matt?
I'm here, but
He
I'm not
might.
going to be able to give you a number again. It's in the document.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
it's
I
it's
apologize.
121 according to the document. And then of those, according to the tree survey, I think 13 of them are kind of on their way out, either dead or dying or in rough shape. They think according to this, they're only removing 108 viable trees that are, well, they're saying impacted by the proposed project. Basically, that means removal. So around 108 that are, I guess, kind of living and in decent shape. So.
All right, thank you. We have a raised hand. So Olivia Sims, we're going to unmute you. And then you'll be able to unmute yourself and you can ask your question. So you're unmuted on our end, Olivia. So you should see the microphone icon and be able to mute yourself to ask it. And it looks like you're still muted. We'll leave you unmuted on our end for a little while in case while you work on getting your microphone unmuted. You can also type your question in the question and answer box, and we'll get to it then too. So, all right. So we're going to go back to that question and answer box. Was there ever a design consideration to place the house in the sizable area of non-critical slope to the east of the current house location?
So I think I'm going to point that one to Matt. EGLE suggested that as an option, but we have not seen any alternate design showing a potential option.
I just want to be sure I understand the buildable area they're referring to. If it's to the east, it would be on top of the high dune there.
Do you want me to?
I think they're talking about a different area, Matt. Maybe could we pull that topo map up? Maybe, Ryan.
Is this one? This the one?
Go one more. I think where it's just the topo. I thought it was one up. Might be one up, not down. There was that one. There we go. And maybe, I mean, it's going to be hard to see at this scale, but I think what they're referring to is the area that is kind of flat-ish and is like northeast kind of the current proposed building site. I think that's what they're talking about. But I guess it is possible they're talking about the very high pinnacle of the.
Well, I would, yeah, responding if it is the one on top of the dune, it was felt that the area lower would be less impactful to the dune feature. Additionally, if moving the building envelope again to the east, if it's the flat area that we just spoke about there, John, the area that's being proposed for the access driveway, really the preferred location is what was proposed based on the needs of the family and the design. I think that's the best answer I can give. It was considered and discarded due to the site features is how I would respond to that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for those answers. It looks like Olivia has her hand raised again. Olivia, we're going to unmute you. And again, if you have a question and want to ask it verbally, please raise your hand. And what we'll do is unmute you on our end, and then you can unmute yourself. If you're here by phone, select #2, and that will raise your hand in Zoom. So Olivia, it looks like you're unmuted on our end. Are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Feel free to ask your question.
Awesome. My question is about the consideration for the dune on the beach side, how close the house is to the dune face, and our considerations for future water level rise, kind of like what we saw in 2020, because we want to make sure that we're maintaining the beach and that we don't have a further request for revetment in the future.
So I'm going to direct that one to Matt. EGLE thinks that it wouldn't hurt to pull the house back, and I think we've made that pretty clear. I don't know if you want to speak to that at all, Matt.
I would respond to the question that all of the proposed structures are landward of the identified dune crest. The consideration about future erosion at the site, we believe is limited in considering that this area is not a high risk erosion area. I know that there's always erosion that occurs along the beach. But in the long term, the proposed structures will be constructed in a safe manner and will not change the location or elevation of the dune crest. So I guess in a brief response is we considered erosion. I think that's a prime consideration for new construction, and thought that there would be a low risk to the proposed structures as a result of Lake Michigan erosion.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for your question, Olivia. All right. Next question is, given there are impacts greater than 33% along the driveway, is a special exception required? And if not, why not?
Because there's a provision in the law to allow people to build a driveway across steep slopes, provided they meet certain criteria, and that's what they proposed here. It's section 11A of the statute. It was a revision during the last time the law was changed, which I think was in 2013 or 2012. So they have proposed what we would consider, at least at this point, a driveway that conforms with section 11A, therefore it doesn't require special exception under 353.
All right. Thanks, John. I got another question in here. What is the total linear square footage of the driveway?
Linear? I know the total square foot is around 14,000, but it's changed a little bit a few times. So I guess I hesitate to give linear length, but I can probably get it off the drawing. So bear with me a second. Matt may know too, off the top of his head. I don't know.
Not off the top of my head here, but if
it's significant, I guess we'll say that. It's long.
All right. I'm looking for other, there's quite a few questions in here still, so I'm kind of looking for others related to driveway since we're talking about that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
It says
I can tell you the original proposal was around 14 or 14,500 square feet of impact for the driveway. I think that's slightly changed in the newer proposal, but not significantly.
Yeah, and that was another question. What changes were made from the original submission? Looks like the driveway got longer from the original plan is what another question is. And so it sounds like that's the case.
So I guess if we're going to talk about original plan, we should really go back to the very beginning. This thing was submitted in like July of 2024. And the original plans had impacts that EGLE felt, well, they were over the crest of the dune. So that's not going to go anywhere. So obviously that got changed. There were some changes associated with that, not real significant ones, but there were some changes. The accessory building was moved back from the lake. I think there were some minor changes to the driveway routing. There were some minor changes with the house itself, the main house and the patio around it to make sure it was all what we'd say landward of the crest, since you can't build a structure lakeward of the crest. So other than that, I don't think there's been real significant changes. But I guess it depends a little bit on which point in time you want to look at, because it has been revised several times.
Okay. All right. Thanks, John. Yeah, we had a couple.
Are you still able to hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I want to say, looking at the plans, they're stationing along the driveway length, and it's 977 feet. Based on that stationing, that would be the center line of the driveway.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate that.
Yeah, much appreciated. Where will they plant over 200 new ones that will grow? I'm assuming that's trees.
I assume they must be talking about trees, probably. So typically on a site this big, we would not ask for, you're going to plant this tree here and this tree there. We would just ask that they be proposed in an area that they're probably going to grow, and then we'd probably have some monitoring associated with them because there are a lot of trees. We could do a financial assurance or something like that. We haven't really looked at that on the site. I don't know if the number of trees warrants it. We do want to see the trees grow, obviously, right? So, and it is a wooded site, so it may be a little challenging. There are some areas of the site, though, primarily to the northeast of the proposed larger house, and there's been a lot of oaks, I think, in that area that have died. I don't know if they're oak wilt or what, but there's some openings in the canopy where I think you'd plant some trees.
All right, thanks, John. Next one's about determining compliance. Specifically, will EGLE do or pay for a post-construction survey to determine compliance with the 15-foot setback?
I think they're talking about the side yard setbacks, probably, would be my guess. EGLE will, if we were to issue a permit here, I'm the one that would be signing it probably. If we go that route, we would require that they stake it, have a pre-construction meeting, make sure everything looks like it's supposed to, and whatever permit we issued. As far as like post-construction survey to make sure that they built it 15 feet from the property line, I don't know that we would typically require that. We're more concerned about the size and location of the house and the other features. We don't want to see something over the setback, obviously, or the side yard setback there, but I don't think I've ever required that personally. So.
Okay, thanks, John. Are the lines for water, electricity, sewage, and cable currently part of the plans? If they are not, when does EGLE anticipate receiving those?
I think there is something in the plans along those lines. Most of them are proposed to be bored, which when they're boring them, we don't really get too uptight about, but as long as they do a good job boring it, and we want to know where the bore pits are, and that's about it. I think the bore pit for most of the utility lines is going to be like down near the end of the driveway and then up by the house. They are on the plans or included in the plans somewhere, but they're not super detailed because again, it's just a boring, like the impact is essentially the bore pits and that's it.
Okay, thanks, John. Someone's asking if we can tell the name of the tree survey. They're saying there's 3 copies of the tree removal guidelines, but not seeing the tree survey document.
We need to look at the vegetation assurance, which was done by Point Blue. The date on it is, 1 second. Tree survey might mean different things to different people. Typically for a site this size, we want to know what kind of trees we're removing, or at least most of them. And we want to know how many. So Point Blue that's the former consultant, they did tree survey. It looks like they dated this letter. That includes a bunch of stuff about vegetation removal and replanting on the 27th of November, 2024. That is, I believe, still the most current version of this. It does go into some verbal discussion about trees, where they observed them, where they saw some that were possibly infected with oak wilt and so forth. So the name of the document, it just says Clifford Revised Final VA for Vegetation Assurance version 4. It's like a PDF document.
All right, thanks, John. That's real helpful. Where will they put all the sand removed for the driveway without destroying the dense foliage?
So a lot of this, I don't think I'd have to go back and look at the engineer's statement about this, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of extra sand. If there is any extra sand, we're probably going to end up having them either put it on the beach or put it elsewhere. I think that their current proposal is to use the sand in the driveway and not have a lot of excess sand in the driveway, and then they need some fill for the accessory building and the house. So we wouldn't let them just put sand fill wherever, right? Because that's an impact, even if it is somewhat temporary and stuff might grow through it. We do want to know where that's at. So I think maybe that answers the question. We do attempt to keep the sand in the system whenever possible. Like we want the sand to be left in the critical dunes area if we can, but we're not going to allow a bunch of vegetation impacts to fill something just to get rid of the sand usually. So every site's a little different though.
All right, thanks, John. Will you be removing any trees or excavating lakeward of the crust?
No.
Okay.
If we were to issue a permit, there would not be any work allowed lakeward of the crest.
All right. Can you talk about the high risk map? And then
high risk map.
Yeah.
This is not in a high risk erosion area. I think maybe that's what they're getting at, but this is not under those regulations, so it doesn't apply. It's possible that this area could get mapped as high risk eventually, but there's no plans to remap Berrien County that I'm aware of right now. So we'd be looking at decades if it ever came to that.
And then this another question is related to, is the adjoining property a high risk erosion site?
No.
Okay. All right, and so some of the questions are starting to get a little duplicative, so I'm going to try to get to ones, because we have limited time here, that we haven't gotten to yet. How many and where will the, it says assesses, but accesses, I'm assuming, to the beach be? How many and where will
You know,
they?
I want to, can I follow up on that high risk erosion one? I didn't
Oh,
pull
yeah,
the
yeah.
map up. I was going off of memory. There is one of the properties nearby is high risk. Some of the other properties are not. So I guess it depends on which property in particular they're talking about. There are some parcels in Wildwood that are high risk and there's some that are not. So this one is not. The neighboring ones to the north are not. It looks like maybe the neighboring one to the south is. I would need to check parcel numbers to be sure. I'm just looking at a map right now. So I'm sorry, where we're at, what was the more recent question before I interrupt you?
Yeah, no problem. It was, how many and where will the accesses to the beach be?
Access to the beach typically is not something that EGLE regulates in the critical dune area. We usually require that they build something in compliance with our policy document that it's like projects that we don't consider to have a significant impact on the critical dune, and we don't regulate them by policy. So if they wanted to have an access to the beach, one access is sufficient. You need to follow WRD 008, which is the policy document. It's essentially like your typical beach stairway. It's kind of elevated above the ground, usually hand-dug posts, usually wood. They're not always going to require that, but there's some stipulations. If they follow that, they don't need a permit from us for that beach access. If they propose something that did require a permit, we would just point them back to come up with a reason why you can't follow this document, because pretty much everybody else can. So.
Okay, thanks, John. Are there deed restrictions or covenants for this parcel?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Now, what is the weight impact of the massive structures to the dune?
Weight impact, like how much load are you going to be putting on the dune from the house? I guess maybe is that what they're saying.
That's my assumption. That's what I'm reading out of it. What's the weight impact of the structures to the dune, like the weight of the structures?
That's not something usually EGLE gets into. Like if I was concerned that they would destabilize the dune, I would want more backup on that. But we're permitting, if we were to issue a permit here, we're permitting the impact of the resource. We're not permitting that the house is going to remain stable and not settle over time, blah, blah, blah. Like we're not permitting the structural integrity of the house.
Okay.
I don't know if Matt wants to follow up on that at all, but I don't really have any real concerns about it.
I think you've covered it sufficiently. Yep.
Okay, thanks. And next, can please explain to the audience what the involvement or governance responsibility of Lake Charter Township has in the permitting process?
So this is not a special exception permit as proposed. They've done quite extensive amount of design work to try to avoid steep slope impacts. If it was special exception, Lake Charter Township would potentially could have a lot more say in the matter. Ideally, we're not going to issue a permit that would be in conflict with the local ordinances. But our permit, if we were to issue one, does not override them. So let's say I issue a permit, hypothetically, that's too high, like the building is too tall for the local ordinance. I've had that come up a couple times recently. It doesn't mean that our permit supersedes or overrides the local ordinance. They still have to follow local ordinance. They have to get a building permit from the township, etc. I have not had too many discussions, maybe one about this project with the township. They didn't submit any comments that I'm aware of yet. I don't know that they're that concerned about it.
Okay, thanks, John. What study was done to come to the decision that erosion was not an issue?
So I assume they're speaking about high risk erosion, maybe.
I think that's.
And I'm not going to go into like answering that question because we'd have to go back and look at when the study was done, and it was probably done pre-2007. But EGLE does have like a methodology like to identify which parcels should be regulated as high risk erosion parcels, and this is not one of them currently.
All right, thanks, John. Does 11% of the area used include the driveway?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Are there any cantilevered portions of the structures that extend beyond the crest of the dune, and what setbacks apply to the site?
So under Part 353, you can't build a structure or initiate a use, which is what the law really regulates. Lakeward of the crest of the dune, special exception. We don't issue those very often. There has to be a really good reason. Here, they have not proposed that. It probably wouldn't go anywhere if they did propose it. So they do not have any areas that are lakeward of the crest of the dune, including the building, patio, whatever else. They do have some cantilevered portions of the building because they have a little tiny piece of steep slope that they're trying to avoid direct impacts to. I think it's the kind of that moon-shaped area where the house is going to go. I don't know. They've avoided steep slopes with that cantilevering of a section of the house. I don't know if it's cantilevered so much as like a hanging boardwalk. That's just it spans the area. I guess there's no direct impacts to steep slope, which satisfies our criteria.
All right, thanks, John. And we're about the time where we need to move on. There's several questions. This would be the last question. And then if we didn't get to your question or you have additional questions, we're going to be providing John's contact information so you can contact him directly. We'll be providing that a little bit later. So this will be the last one until we move on to the next part of tonight, which would be the hearing. We want to leave lots of time for everybody to give their comments for the hearing portion of tonight. So this is why can't the house and parking be placed adjacent to the road? Such a placement would have significantly less adverse impact to the dune and forest.
Okay, I'll answer that from our standpoint, and I'll allow Matt to chime in if he chooses to. From EGLE's standpoint, most of this site, this property is steep slopes. The vast majority of it is slopes over 1 on 3 or 33%. The law essentially says you cannot impact those areas unless there's no other alternative, and you have to have good reason, you have to demonstrate a practical difficulty, etc. To build the house near the road would require significant steep slope impacts, even for a more modestly sized house. Certainly this house would have significant impacts to the dune as far as steep slopes go. I do not think that EGLE could entertain that sort of a scenario. That's not been proposed. It would be a challenging one to wrap our heads around because, again, you have to avoid steep slope impacts at all costs. It's not you avoid steep slope impacts to otherwise reduce other impacts. It doesn't work like that. So,
all right, thanks,
I don't know,
John.
Matt, you want to say anything about that?
No, thank you. I think you've covered it really clearly. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Yeah. Thank you, Matt, for being on the line with us tonight, and to all our panelists for answering those questions, and all of our audience members for asking such great questions. Like I said, there's still some in there we didn't get to. If we didn't get to it, I'll be providing John's contact information later on, and you can contact John directly if you choose. All right. Before we get into how we're going to do the hearing portion of tonight, just want to go through the other ways to make a comment. So if you don't want to make a statement tonight verbally, there's some other ways you can make a comment. You can do it through EGLE's MyEnviro system, through submission HQ4-X31B-YKG70. And we're going to put that link to MyEnviro in the chat. You can also submit your comments by mail to John Bayha, B-A-Y-H-A, at the EGLE Kalamazoo District Office, P.O. Box 30458, and that's at 525 West Allegan Street at the Deborah A. Stabenow Building, Lansing, Michigan 48909-7926. And again, we'll put this in the chat as well, so you have it. And the comment period is going to be open for 10 days after today, so it'll be August 31st that the comment period will be open. All right, at this time, we have a hearing statement. Before we start taking comments, John, would you like to read that for us tonight?
Sorry, my mute button wasn't working. Yes, I would. Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
All right, so good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Bayha, and I'm the district representative in the Water Resources Division of the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy, or EGLE. I'll be serving as the hearings officer for this public hearing on EGLE submission number HQ4-X31B-YKG70. With me tonight is Derek Harrelson, district supervisor, or also my supervisor, who is assisting me with the review of this permit application. So to describe how it's going to work tonight, I will begin with some background information about why we're here tonight. I will then describe the purpose of the hearing and how your comments will be used. Following that, I'll outline the procedures under which we will take your comments and then describe what will happen after tonight's hearing. There will then be time for you to provide comments, and we will spend the majority of the time tonight listening to those comments. At the end of the hearing, I'll read a closing statement. So a little background information. The Water Resource Division is responsible for administrating a variety of programs to help protect the inland lakes and streams, wetlands, floodplains, sand dunes, and the Great Lakes. These programs regulate certain activities such as dredging or filling a lake, stream, or wetland, constructing a dam, constructing a marina, placing shore protection or constructing docks, and building in a designated critical dune area, wetland, or floodplain. The law governing these responsibilities is the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act, 1994, or PA Public Act 451 as amended. We are here tonight because John and Berrien Clifford proposed the following project: construct a single-family home, accessory non-residential building, and associated septic, electric, and driveway. Due to the site characteristics, extensive retaining walls designed by a professional engineer will be installed to limit contour changes to the sand dunes of the site. Their property is located within a critical dune area at Lot 16 in the Wildwood community. The purpose of the public hearing: in order for a permit to be granted, EGLE must find that the proposed activity described in the public notice meets certain criteria set by Part 353 Sand Dune Protection and Management of the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act 1994, or PA 451 as amended. For short, we typically call that NREPA. In general, we must consider the permanent and temporary impacts or effects of the proposed project on this area of the protected critical dunes. And it is currently a forested, or what we'd call a wooded dune ecosystem, essentially the entire parcel. When reviewing an application for permit under the provisions of Part 353 Sand Dunes Protection and Management of Act 451, EGLE is charged to make the following considerations as required by Section 353.04 of Part 353. Subject to Section 353.16, a permit shall be approved unless the local unit of government or department determines that the use will significantly damage the public interest on privately owned land, or if the land is publicly owned, the public interest in publicly owned land by significant and unreasonable depletion or degradation of any of the following: the diversity of the critical dune areas within the local unit of government, the quality of the critical dune areas within the local unit of government, the functions in the critical dune areas within the local unit of government. The purpose of tonight's hearing is to give anyone interested in John and Berrien Clifford's new residential house and associated infrastructure project an opportunity to provide information that EGLE can use in making the decision whether or not to issue a permit. Please recognize that EGLE can only use the information you provide if it relates to the criteria that EGLE must use in making a permitting decision. Some of you may simply want to express your support or opposition to the project. We'll be happy to make note of your position, but please understand that EGLE is, by law, not allowed to base our decision on whether or not there is widespread support or opposition to a project. In just a moment, I will outline the procedures we will use for taking your comments. But before I do so, I need to mention that the notice of this hearing was published in the Herald Palladium on July 26, 2025. As we discussed at the beginning of the informational session, if you have a comment to provide, raise your hand in the Zoom toolbar. To ensure that the hearing is conducted in a fair manner, we will follow these steps. First, the applicant has already had the opportunity to describe the project, but may wish to speak again on the project. Second, we will then call on those who have indicated in their registration that they would like to speak. After that, we will call on those that have raised their hand in the Zoom toolbar that they would like to make a comment if they haven't already been called upon. As a reminder, if you're participating in this hearing via telephone only, follow the directions of the moderator on how to identify that you would like to make a comment. You may also submit your comments to EGLE via the MyEnviro portal, email, or US mail. When the comments have been completed, we will ask if anyone else would like to make a statement. If your name is called, your microphone will be unmuted. As you begin your comments, please state your name and any group or association you may represent. Each person will be given approximately 4 minutes to make their comments. We will indicate to you when you have 1 minute left. Please begin wrapping up your comments and end within the allotted time. If need be, we will indicate when your time has ended. I would ask that we all be courteous and respectful of one another tonight. Please also recognize that EGLE staff is here tonight to provide a fair opportunity for you to express your comments on the proposed project and to listen to those comments. This hearing is being recorded and your comments will be part of the information EGLE will consider in making its decision on whether or not to issue a permit on the proposed project. Public comment period for this public hearing is open for 10 days from the date of this hearing, ending on Sunday, September 31st, 2025. Additional information and comments submitted in writing during the 10-day public comment period will also be considered in EGLE's decision. Following the close of the public comment period, EGLE will make a decision on either issue a permit for the proposed project or for the project as proposed, or with modifications, or send a letter of denial. You may find out what the decision is by checking EGLE's My Enviro Portal website and searching for the application number HQ4-X31B-YKG70. Thank you for your attention. We'll begin calling the names of those who have indicated that they would like to make a statement.
Yeah, thanks for reading that, John. Yeah, as John mentioned, we have a list of names who indicated during registration that they'd like to make a comment. So we're going to start with that list. I have seven names on that list. And then once we get through that list, if you have not made a comment and you would like to, you can raise your hand in Zoom, or if you're on the phone, select #2 to raise your hand and you can make a comment. It'll be one comment per person. And like John mentioned, you'll have 4 minutes to make a comment. You'll see a countdown timer in the upper right-hand corner of your screen counting down so you know how much time you have left. And then when you have 1 minute left, you'll hear this noise. Oops. So that'll indicate you have a minute left, just so you know where you're at with your comments and how much time you have. I think that's all I have for you until we get going. So our first commenter is Mary Kay Steele. So Mary Kay, we are going to find you in the audience and unmute you, and then you can begin your comment when you're ready. And it looks like you are unmuted on our end, Mary Kay, so you can feel free to unmute yourself, and you can begin when you're ready. And then after Mary Kay will be Chris Reagan. Are you there, Mary Kay? All right, it looks like you are unmuted, but we can't hear you. So you might want to, or you might need to look at your microphone settings and the microphone that you have selected. So what we'll do is we're going to go to Chris, and then we'll come back to you after you've had a chance to take a look and see if you're able to get your microphone working. Are you there, Chris?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
All right, great. Good evening. And thank you to EGLE for the opportunity to weigh on the proposed Wildwood project. My name is Chris Reagan. I have lived in the Bridgman's Dunewood Association for 23 years. We know from experience in Dunewood that a home built too close to the crest of a foredune, like the proposed construction in Wildwood, creates an incentive to install hard armor when lake levels rise. Having lived on the banks of one or another of the Great Lakes my entire life, I know this from experience. I grew up on Lake Erie in a house my grandfather built. My brother still lives there, but the beach we enjoyed as children no longer exists. Like many Ohio beaches, it fell victim to the destructive power of armoring that has decimated Lake Erie's coastline, thanks in part to lax interpretation of public trust law. Because my children and theirs will never enjoy the beach I knew as a child, I feel compelled to protect these Michigan shores. I know from my family's experience in Ohio that revetments over time lead to the destruction of the beach. One stretch of revetments propagates the need for others, creating a domino effect that results in miles of piled boulders that were once a beach. You can look to Stevensville for a local example. There, numerous revetments have been built, repaired, expanded in 1985, 1998, 2016, 2022. The Stevensville beach I visited as a college student no longer exists. The only way to stop our beaches from disappearing is to stop building new homes so close to the foredune that they invite revetments when lake levels rise. The degradation of the beach affects the public interest. Mr. Euxter, the attorney for the permit applicants, writes in his letter of August 8th to EGLE that, quote, Part 353 makes it very clear that the public's interest in preserving critical dunes must be balanced against the interest of economic development, unquote. I would argue that the survival of Michigan's treasured beaches, which attract countless tourists and residents who sustain coastal economies, make a far greater contribution to economic development than one irresponsibly sited home. I urge EGLE to recite this project out of harm's way. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comment, Chris. All right, Mary Kay, it sounded like you got your microphone working. We unmuted you again, I believe, so you can unmute yourself, and then we should be able to hear you. Are you there?
Yes, I am. Sorry,
Okay,
Chris.
we can hear you. You can begin when you're ready.
Okay. Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Mary Kay Steele, and I'm a member of the Wildwood Homeowners Association. The beachfront we enjoy today is a result of the stewardship of the past. I believe that the proposed building site and excessive driveway will do irreversible harm to our forest dunes and natural beachfront. My grandfather brought his family to this shoreline in the 1930s. In 1929, Lorraine O'Rourke was platting Wildwood. Like my grandfather, she was preservation-minded and forward-thinking. Her appreciation for the wildwood is evident not only in the Wildwood name, but also in the forested common area preserved in the middle of our subdivision. Wildwood Shoreline is also platted as a common area to be enjoyed by all. Lot 16 is the last undeveloped lot on the Wildwood Lakeshore. In my lifetime, I've seen many times of high water. I have memories of my dad and uncle putting up snow fences and all us kids filling sandbags. Our houses were set respectfully back from the dune crest, and they are still safely standing today. 2019 was a big challenge for our shoreline. Houses built close to the dune crest seemed at risk, and 9 permits for revetments between the Cook Plant and Weco Beach were requested. If it were not for stewardship, we would not be enjoying the glorious beach we have today. Great effort was made to educate about how a healthy, natural beach can restore itself, while the scouring effects of revetments carry our future beaches away. Education works, community works. All 9 revetment permits were denied. And with soft solutions, all homes are still safely standing. With a hope for future generations, I would like to voice my objections to the proposed building plans. The multiple structures and driveway are placed dangerously close to the dune crest. The heartbreak of the next high water can be avoided by building in the more appropriate buildable site toward the middle of the lot. The driveway is unnecessarily both wide and long. Many trees will be sacrificed, the dune unstabilized. Again, there is a solution, the more appropriate location. I was dismayed and concerned by the casual resignation of the homeowner that his building plan may need a revetment in the future. Given the resounding rejection of revetments along our lakeshore by advocates and EGLE, I would expect that if this permit were approved, it would carry with it requirements that would make all structures movable, including the location to where they would be moved. Our lakeshore is one of the longest walkable natural beaches in Michigan. It cannot be taken for granted. Unique and resilient, it is also the magnet for our local tourism. Be preservation-minded, be forward-thinking, preserve Lorraine O'Rourke's legacy, and please protect our own. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for your comment. All right, next up is Julius Kirshner, and then following Julius will be Jonathan Berger. So Julius, you are unmuted on our end. So you feel free to unmute your microphone. You should see a microphone icon at the bottom of your screen, and can unmute it and begin your comment. All right, it looks like you are still muted on our end. So what we'll do, Julius, is we'll go on to the next person, just like we did before, and then we'll come back to you to see if you're able to get your microphone unmuted. Jonathan Berger, you're up. Feel free to begin when you're ready.
Right, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Thanks to EGLE for hosting this hearing. John Berger, we're now entering our 6th year in Wildwood. We neighbor the proposed development on the southern border. We have several substantial concerns regarding the proposed development of Lot 16 and look forward to submitting a more thorough written comment in the days following this hearing. But for this public hearing, I wanted to highlight 3 simple observations. The proposed structures and driveway are simply way too close to the crest of the dune. It's one thing to observe the drawings. The stakes on the physical property are down the sloped crest, and both proposed structures are just dangerously close to the bluff once the lake inevitably rises. Construction along the crest presents incremental destabilization of the critical dune via the construction and tree removal along the crest, but also presents a future risk to wildwood in the need for a revetment. Number 2, the plan is simply excessive. The winding driveway touches all 4 sides of the property. The structures are large and aggressively positioned forward towards the lake. And number 3, feasible and reasonable alternatives exist. I urge EGLE to consider prudent alternatives to this proposal and really appreciate everyone's time joining this hearing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for your comment. All right, we're coming back to Julius. Looks like you're still unmuted on our end, Julius. If you're having trouble unmuting your microphone and having issues with your microphone, you have a couple options. You can go to your audio settings and try to call in by telephone, or there should be that option. It should provide you a number, or you can leave a comment by the other methods that we have, which I'll share again a little later on after we get through our verbal comments. We'll share those other ways to make a comment, so that you'll have that option as well. All right, so we're going to have to move on, Julius, if you're not able to get your microphone unmuted. Thank you. So next up is Mark Graham, and then after Mark is going to be Dean Marks. So Mark Graham, you are unmuted on our end, and you can begin when you're ready.
Okay, this is Mark Graham, and thank you, EGLE, for holding this public hearing. For the record, I agree with what John Berger and Mary Kay Steele and Chris Reagan have said so far. The question came up during Q&A as to whether there are any deed or covenant restrictions on this lot, and you said, as far as you know, there are not. There's at least one that may be relevant here, which is that you cannot build 2 dwellings, 2 habitable structures on a lot. And I want EGLE to consider the square footage of the accessory building and whether it looks to you like at some point in the future there may be a plan to turn that accessory building into a residential, because that's not allowed. Okay, now regarding the question of placing the house farther away from the crest, farther away from the lake, and into a buildable area that's farther east and maybe towards the center of the lot. Thank you for asking my question during Q&A. The answer that I heard you say was, no, that would entail steep slope impacts, and EGLE's not even going to go there. So you dismissed it out of hand. But my understanding is that there has been a determination that there is a buildable area on lot 16 farther east and closer to the center of the lot. Now, I have not seen the document, and I cannot name the professional who made that determination, but there are such professionals, whether they're surveyors or engineers or whatever it is. I'm sure they're licensed by the state. So I'm asking EGLE, are you aware that there's been such a determination that there is a buildable area where I've described it, farther east and closer to the center of the lot? Do you have that document? And I'm recommending that, whether you have it or not, one way or another, this is a key point, because the location of the house is a key point. And I think there needs to be some clarity and, of course, accuracy as to whether there is or is not a buildable area where I have mentioned it. And when I say farther east and closer to the center of the lot, I'm talking about my understanding is the determination is that notwithstanding steep slopes and notwithstanding steep slope impacts or to put it differently, even taking those into consideration, there still is a buildable area in the place that I've described it. In my opinion, you need to know this, and you cannot really evaluate the possibility of alternatives until you know that. So I'm asking EGLE to either pay for or require another assessment, whether it's done by a surveyor or whatever type of professional does these things, as to whether there is a buildable area where I've described in lot 16. I think I don't know why the driveway has to be so long and so close to the lake. It seems that the intention is to enjoy the brief drive, however many seconds it would take if you're driving up, you're coming in from I-94 and you get to the point and you're driving up that road, and then you look to your right as you go from the accessory building to the house. It seems that the intention of the design is that you will enjoy your lakefront view while you're in your car making that drive for 30 seconds or 20 seconds or whatever it takes. And
Mark,
I just don't think it needs to accommodate that.
Your time is up, Mark. Please wrap up your comments.
Okay, well, yes, I think that EGLE does not need to accommodate such a desire. Thank you. I look forward to your response.
Thanks for your comment, Mark. All right, next up is going to be Dean Marks, and then followed by Dean is Bob Fisher. And then Bob is going to be the last person on our list, and then we're going to go to the raised hands, anyone who has not made a comment. So Dean, it looks like you are unmuted. You can begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, John Bay. My name is Dean Marks. I'm the owner of the lot adjacent to the north, and my key concerns regarding this proposed development in lot 16 are as follows. The excessive permanent impact of this development plan far exceeds anything else on the lakefront in Wildwood. The total impact here is 21,824 feet. The next largest lakefront lot having 13,939 feet of impact. This significantly impairs and jeopardizes the critical dune and our lakefront. I note that EGLE has raised objections to both the size of the house as excessively large and its location on the crest, together with the large impervious areas and heavy loading of these oversized structures, none of which appear to have been addressed by the applicant in any material fashion. In fact, only minor changes seem to have been made in over a year of EGLE review, with no substantial alternatives proposed or considered. The driveway and construction impacts are excessive, with the driveway covering nearly a quarter mile with a high volume of sand excavation and removal of, I heard, 108 live trees across the entire development today. Driveway nearly doubles itself in its required length with a looping design from the center of the lot all the way to the south property line, back to the north property line, and then again back to the south property line, requiring retaining walls up to 2 stories tall in some places, running along the south neighbor's property line without regards to any setback, 10-foot tall sheet piling along half of the lot's frontage on Wildwood Road, extensive grading and fill with sand relocation, further impacting the dune vegetation and ecosystem. This design can be shortened and the house shifted eastward to reduce the impact of the driveway. There exists a feasible and prudent alternative building site in the center of the lot that the driveway runs through east of the crest. The placement of the structures in close proximity to the crest is also concerning. The house, patio, driveway, stormwater basins, and proposed accessory building are located near or on top of the crest of the dune. These structures risk destabilizing the dune, especially when accounting for lakeward tree removal for construction or creation of view corridors. I heard today that no tree removal will be allowed lakeward of the crest, which I would like to confirm with EGLE. I also heard that only one beach access stair will be allowed, which I would also like to confirm with EGLE. Both the accessory building and the proposed home are extremely close to the 2021 erosion line, and the structures on or near the crest, which may require shoreline protection, jeopardize the ecological integrity of the dune. I think you've noted that this community is vehemently opposed to hard revetment along its lakefront, which is at odds with the applicant's statements from earlier this week. The tree removal and sand relocation of this proposed plan excessively impact the dune. It was noted during Q&A that no specific tree removal plan has been provided, likely involves lakeward removal of trees, impacting the dune stability, and we'd like to see a detailed plan for removal as requested. Sand relocation into the forested dunes sounded mitigated by Mr. Beha's comments, but it threatens existing trees and vegetation and increases erosion risk, further jeopardizing the dune stability. The large proposed structures and culvert driveway threaten significant unreasonable depletion or degradation to the diversity, quality, and function of the critical dune area. And we urge the applicant and EGLE to consider feasible and prudent alternatives such as smaller footprint structures, relocating the house further from the dune crest, reducing the driveway length to eliminate the large retaining walls. This project has the potential to cause significant and unreasonable damage to the dune's ecological function and public interest in contravention of Part 353 of the Critical Dune Protection Law, and we urge EGLE to seek strict adherence to Part 353 as alternatives exist to minimize the harm to the dune's diversity, quality, and function. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for your comments. All right. Next up is Bob Fisher. So Bob, you are unmuted on our end.
So thank you very much. I mean, I appreciate the hearing, and I have nothing new to add to what people have already said.
All right. Well, thank you, Bob. All right. So at this point, we are going to go to the raise hand. So if you have not made a comment yet and you would like to make a comment, please click the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen. That will raise your hand in Zoom. We'll call on you, unmute you, and then you'll be able to make your statement. If you're on the phone, if you're a phone-in caller, you can select #2 on your phone, and that will raise your hand in Zoom as well, and we'll call on you using the last 4 digits of your phone number. All right, so with that, next up is David Williams. So David, we're going to unmute you, and you can make your comment.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Cool. So I'm David Williams. I live directly across from lot 16, the lot in question, as does another neighbor. There's one lot that's divided in two. It's 30A and 30B, and we look directly onto the east-facing slope of the dune that occupies lot 16. So in a way, we consider ourselves adjacent lot owners, even though we're separated only by 40 feet of association road. So I have two main criticisms of the plan. The first off is the impact of the driveway design. So in that facing east slope, that driveway presents, the latest driveway design presents nearly 300 feet of a 10-foot high steep pile wall. So that's basically 10-foot high of rusting metal that we would see every day, as well as people driving this stretch of Wildwood Drive would see it every day. And this beautiful valley that this lot defines on the west side of Wildwood Drive as you drive through it has been known for decades as the Enchanted Valley. From my read of the plans, those plans show no consideration for planting or any softening of the aesthetics of that 10-foot exposed rusting steel wall. Currently, certainly there must be some alternatives that have less impact, both environmentally, with a smaller footprint for the drive and as well as aesthetically. My second criticism is that I believe the applicant has not answered a major concern of EGLE's that has been expressed repeatedly throughout the back and forth with this application process that's gone on for quite some time. So I just like to quote, I would like to read the section because it's just so well worded and the answer is so evasive that I just want everybody to hear it. Here's EGLE's concern. The proposed house structure is excessively large and is located right along the crest of the dune with large impervious areas and heavy loading from the proposed structures that is likely to cause direct or indirect impacts to the areas lakeward of the dune crest. Serious consideration to reducing the size of the house structure and relocation of everything away landward from the dune crest is required. So obviously a giant open door to compromise. Here's the response. The proposed home's size and location is consistent with other homes located along the Lake Michigan shoreline in this area. The proposed area of the contour change is approximately 1 acre in size, considering the size of this lot, approximately 5 acres, only 20% of the lot is being used for the proposed residential development. The location and areas of the slopes, less than 1 to 3, dictate the location of the proposed building and proximity to the dune crest. The proposed best management practices will address any potential effect, direct or indirect impacts to the areas landward of the dune crest. So to my ear, there's no attempt to try a different site placement or to address the specifics of EGLE's concerns. And there's an implicit assumption in the answer that there can be no compromise, which of course is false. And as a design professional, I know that there's a compromise possible, as we've heard several suggestions about alternative sightings of the structures tonight. So that's my two criticisms, and thank you very much for the opportunity to comment.
Yeah, thank you for your comment, David. All right, next up is Olivia Sims.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Olivia Sims. I am a professional engineer in Indiana in environmental engineering. And I just wanted to ask EGLE to follow up on the high-risk dune analysis. It sounds like that was completed in 2007. And I wonder if, based on some of the comments we've heard tonight about where the actual crest of the dune is, that further analysis with current conditions would be really useful for understanding if this is actually going to be a reasonable impact. Especially considering recent conditions in 2019 through 2020, where the stability of existing homes was at question and caused us to many of the homes along the shore to look towards revetments as a possibility for saving their homes. And I think that this also goes along with the last comment about how previous responses have pointed to existing homes being a similar design. And clearly those existing homes did not fare well in recent conditions. And I think that current conditions and best practices today are needed to make a good analysis of this site and the design that's being proposed here.
All right, thanks for your comment, Olivia.
Mhm.
All right. If there's anyone who has not yet made a comment and would like to, feel free to raise your hand in Zoom by selecting the raise hand icon, or if you're on the phone by selecting #2. It looks like Matthew Eugster, you're up. You are unmuted.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, I'm just a couple of general comments, largely in response to some of the comments earlier. You know, it's interesting that a lot of the comments seek to apply standards that wouldn't be met by other homes in the area and seem to lack an understanding of the work that John and Maureen have done to make this an effective project. You know, there've been multiple revisions, but the size of the development here is not inconsistent, and it's actually less than the median or the average of other developed homes on the lake. So statements that this is an overarching or intrusive design are entirely inaccurate. Beyond that, the comments about the length of the driveway fail to recognize the design of the topography of the site. So putting a driveway here requires following contour lines to avoid steep slopes consistent with Part 353. So the design of the driveway isn't an intent to try and lengthen the driveway or increase any view. It's to comply with Part 353, which is the requirement here. Additionally, you know, the statements about revetments, I believe, are inaccurate. As I understand it, John has no plans to install a revetment, and statements that he indicated he planned to do that are inaccurate. He had indicated that he wouldn't rule it out like any other homeowner wouldn't if his site was at risk. There's no reason to believe that's true. John's home is not in a high-risk erosion area. It's no closer to the lake than several other homes that are lakefront in the area. So this is not a unique design that creates, you know, additional risk. Comments also fail to ignore that, you know, despite the size of the home, it's built on 3 pods with bridging that overlays and help to avoid slopes and critical dunes. So there's obviously been a lot of work that's gone into the development and the design. This home and the site plan have been redeveloped several times in response to comments from EGLE. And so, you know, we would hope that EGLE would take that into consideration when reviewing the permit application. That's all I had.
All right, thank you for your comment. All right, is there anybody else out there who has not made a comment yet and would like to? Again, you can raise your hand in Zoom, or if you're on the phone by selecting #2, and that will raise your hand in Zoom. Should be a raised hand icon for those logging in by computer. If we don't have any other raised hands, we'll go on to the next part of tonight, which is we're going to show those other ways to make a comment in case you ran out of time or decided you didn't want to make a comment tonight but would like to send in comments. And then we're going to provide John's contact information to answer some of those questions. You can contact John directly if we didn't get to your question. So I'm not seeing any other raised hands. So John, do you want to read the closing statement for us tonight?
Certainly, Ryan. Thank you. All right, closing statement. Thank you for your comments and cooperation. We appreciate your interest in the proposed project and that you took the time to be here tonight. On a personal note, I guess I would just add there definitely were some things that maybe, you know, different way of thinking about a few of these different issues. So that's very helpful to me as the reviewer. As indicated at the beginning of the hearing, you may submit additional written comments until Sunday, August 31st, 2025. Following the close of the public comment period, we will consider all comments received and make a decision on the proposed project. Just to remind those that may still want to submit a comment, comments can be submitted via our My Enviro portal. There's links and all of the various documents associated with this via email to me or Derek or whoever, and by US mail. The hearing is now closed. Thank you again.
All right, thanks, John. As John mentioned, there's other ways you can make a comment. And we're going to put those other ways in the chat through My Enviro by mail to P.O. Box 30458, 525 West Elegant Street, to Deborah Stabenow Building, Lansing, Michigan, 48909-7926. And again, you want to address that to John Byha, the Eagle Kalamazoo District Office. And the comment period will be open for 10 days, which would be August 31st. So it's 10 days, August 31st. All right, you should be seeing John's contact info in front of you on your screen. John can be reached at 269-568-2680. And again, that's 269-568-2680, or by email at bayhaj@michigan.gov. That's bayhaj@michigan.gov. All right, before we wrap up here, want to see, Derek, do you have any closing comments for us?
Yeah, I just, I would like to thank everybody for, taking the time, everybody's, busy schedule on an evening, to participate. Appreciated, all the questions, the comments, and, just that it was everybody certainly behaved in a, a very professional, courteous, respectful manner, to each other and to Eagle staff. So, I just appreciate that. I'd like to thank everybody for, again, just taking some time to participate in the hearing.
All right, many thanks, Derek. Yeah, thanks to all of you for being part of this. Last thing I'll leave you with is just a reminder that this hearing was recorded, so that'll be posted on our YouTube channel in the next day or two. So keep an eye out for it, and I hope you all have a great rest of your evening, and good night.